So Cynthia Cruz and I have been in private practice for about 4 years. We met starting our own private practice and then worked together for a while. And she's phenomenal, talented, and she also happens to be my fiance. So the two of us have joined forces for the C-Note show, and you're going to be seeing a lot more of us through this kind of format. I want to start with something fun. So you guys see my crazy spiky hair. I know there's a lot of tragedy in the world, and there's a lot of hardship going on right now with everything. And me being able to get to the barber is the last thing on really the list of concerns. But damn, I could really use a haircut. And I wanted to share something fun on that note. That it's about 2.5 minutes long. So check this out. Wayne's World.
So call.
Then just
Clap on, Wayne's World, party time, excellent. Okay.
All right, excellent.
Excellent.
Woo!
Okay, extreme close up. Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!
Excellent.
Excellent. Extreme close-up. Okay, now's the time for Wayne's World Totally Amazing, Excellent Discoveries. Our guest is Ron Paxton. Welcome to Wayne's World, Ron.
Thanks, Wayne.
Now, you're the inventor of the SUCK KUT, right? What exactly is a SUCK KUT?
The SUCK KUT is a revolution in home haircutting.
Wow, what a totally amazing, excellent discovery.
Well, yes.
Fireworks. Now, Ron, the question that's on everybody's mind is, how does it work?
I'm fully prepared to give a complete demonstration.
Okay, Garth, just sit there and he's gonna put that thing on your melon, okay?
Just a trim, don't buzz me, all right?
So tell me, Ron, exactly how does the SUCK KUT work?
Well, as you can see, it sucks as it cuts.
It certainly does suck.
What are we looking at?
Wayne's World. These guys, they do their show out of their basement.
People watch this?
Yeah, lots.
Turn it off, man! Turn it off! It's sucking my will to live! Oh, the humanity!
Will you hand me the telephone?
Sure.
Russell? It's Benjamin. Are you watching TV? Listen, could you turn it to channel 10? I want you to find out who these guys are and where they do their show. I think we found something that we can sell to Vanderhoff.
Take your ribbon! Okay? Okay, you're in a forest.
Forest?
You're in a forest with Heather Locklear.
With Heather?
And you're very warm.
Yeah?
Very
Warm?
warm.
These guys are so funny.
Ron, is there
Oh, they're obviously brilliant.
Can't do?
Oh, not
Wow,
done.
what a totally amazing, excellent discovery. Not. Thanks, Ron. Okay, that's all the time we have for this week. Until then, good night.
Party on, Wayne!
Party on, Garth. It's Wayne's World. Wayne's World. Party time. Excellent.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Flashback. Oh my goodness. It's sucking my will to live. So hilarious. Cynthia, I saw you laughing during that. You like that?
Oh my, I loved when Wayne's World came out. It's very goofy, and I was imagining you getting your, hair sucked. So that was a good image.
There's good kinds of getting sucked, and then there's other kinds of getting sucked. That's
Yes,
definitely true. Yeah. Good. So, gentlemen, I have a question for today that is a smash up, I'll call it. Conglomeration, is that a word? A smash up of 2 or 3 different questions that we've had come up from men recently. Our topic today is WTF. What the fuck does I don't trust you enough to have sex yet mean? I don't trust you enough yet. What does that mean? That's our theme for today. So go ahead and punch any questions into the chat, and I will start us off, Miss Cynthia, with asking you, first of all, if a man starts off and asks you, hey, this is happening with my wife, and she says she doesn't trust me right now enough to have intimacy with me, to, like I call it, dance up the stairs of physical intimacy with me, or even emotional intimacy maybe at this point, right? I mean, we're having this physical distancing and COVID, and you're in a spot now where you're forced, quote unquote, to be around your spouse or your partner much more than normal, or you're not able to move out, or she's not able to move out, or you're not able to get to the gym, which is a thing I've been trying to do, go to the park every day. So it's a tough spot right now. And if you're trying to rebuild trust, but give her space, it's really hard to offer her that space. So Cynthia, in that context, if a man were to come to you right now and say, my wife says that she doesn't trust me enough right now, what's your immediate thoughts with that? And then what would be an immediate question for that man?
Sure. So it sounds like there's almost like two questions here. There's the, what does that mean? What the fuck does that mean? And then there's the, how do I give space right now in a time when that's not really easy to do. So I guess I would love to first talk about the, what does that mean? First by saying, there's so much resentment and anger built up, right? When we're with a partner who's like, I don't want to connect with you. I don't want to be intimate with you. But underneath that, I did just want to call out and normalize that any of us, when we are sitting across from a partner and they say there's something they don't trust about us or a part of us, the pain is excruciating, right? To have this person that we love, and we are this, we have our honor and who we are, and to have that happen is a really gnarly experience. So I just want to say thank you for being in that experience and still kind of showing up and wondering how to push through that. I was listening to Esther Perel yesterday, and she had this incredible metaphor that when pains and arguments and things start building up in a relationship, it's like the kitchen sink starts getting built up with dirty dishes. So often, like very early on in a relationship, when we're still just doing the best we can, but unknowingly we cause someone some pain or discomfort, a dirty dish goes in the sink. And then no one says anything about it. Often women won't say anything about it, and it just kind of sits there. And then the next episode happens and the other dirty dish gets put in. And you're still going along and you're still being intimate, but now there's these two dishes in the sink. And then years go by and suddenly there's a sink full of dishes. And you're looking at the woman in your life going like, what can I do? How can we connect through this? And she's looking at the pile of dishes and going, there is so much pain and angst here that I haven't told you about, that I haven't had the skills to verbalize. And that's really shutting me down. I mean, any of us, if we get kind of a dagger to the heart, we automatically start to have a little bit of a shield. So when the woman is saying like, don't trust you enough right now to be with you physically, she's referring to the the sink full of dishes. And she's also referring to when the feminine is protecting herself, it's a very physical thing. And I even experienced this. If there's a pain that hits me, my immediate response is like, how can I just shut off from here down and keep myself safe? And it must be incredibly frustrating to the masculine who's wanting to invite, like, let's touch each other. Let me show you. Let's build trust again. And the feminine and the woman is going, no. Like, we have to clean up these dishes before I could even go there again.
Oh my gosh, I love that metaphor of the sink full of dishes, the dishes full of sink.
The dishes full of sink.
The dishes. Absolutely. I'm gonna take a rabbit hole here and throw something at you, Cynthia. Do you remember one of our first dates? We went to Whole Foods and we were sitting out on the patio area there, and I asked you where you felt me, or where you felt maybe that there was any roadblocks within me, or the energy wasn't, let's say, flowing in certain parts of my body. And do you remember what you said?
Yes. Yeah. I remember kind of empathically felt your energy flowing kind of from your stomach up. But then I couldn't really feel your energy from like your gut down. It felt like there was a wall there and I couldn't quite touch in on that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So basically, guys, she said she couldn't feel the energy from my crotch. And I paused and thought, that's probably not good in a date situation. And, I didn't react. I thought about that and tried as skillfully as I could to flow the conversation from there. But what you just said about, I can't feel you from your body, from this part of your body, and to be closed down of what you just said, Cynthia, from the neck down, if there's wounds, if you've been stabbed in the heart or stabbed in the gut, if that's what it feels like, emotionally, of course, as well. If you're closed off from the neck down, your woman may not be as skillful as I am so lucky to have Miss Cynthia here, Cynthia, to tell me that or give me that immediate direct feedback, right? Now, of course, between me and the men on here, I still had to handle it well, right? I didn't scowl. I didn't get defensive. I didn't dig into it to try to understand, how I am lacking in some capacity here. I allowed her statement to sit. I allowed her statement to wash over me. And I felt into that and then asked her more about that and moved forward in the conversation. So I didn't collapse within myself. I didn't fight in defense. I acted like Steve Horseman's on here. Steve Horseman would say, I was a mountain lion in that moment. The mountain lion in that moment doesn't react. He feels into it and he responds in a way that I'm now so proud of, and such a great example. I brought it up here today. I didn't think I was going to do that today. Cynthia, when I say that, how does that hit you?
Well, the thing that was washing over me is that we are all allowed to have things that kind of shut us down a little bit. I think the beauty of having conversations with our partner is it's like different things cause pain in the feminine and different things cause pain in the masculine with those walls going up. And it's nothing is right or wrong. It's not like, oh, if my woman's kind of closed off from here down, it's not that you as the man have done anything wrong. It's just from her perspective of her feminine emotional world. And then I would say from the masculine, if his more feeling, logical, heroic side has been kind of stabbed, like that's a very different things would cause him to kind of need to close down and protect himself. And again, it's just kind of like a misunderstanding of men and women. I truly believe everyone is doing the best they can in every moment with what they've been given and what they bring to the table in a relationship.
Yeah, that unconditional positive regard, to assume that she's wanting good things, right? To somewhere underneath that, she's wanting you to reach out to her, right? If she didn't care, she wouldn't be giving you a hard time. She wouldn't be asking you questions. There would be no exchange, right? The opposite of joy and love is not anger. The opposite of joy is apathy, complete nothingness, not caring. And maybe she's still physically there, especially because of what's going on now, but that doesn't mean that she's, not thinking ahead and planning ahead. I just had a conversation with a man yesterday about that. So let me roll into the question in chat here. That's a good next step. From Kent. 13 years married, wife recently admitted that she's never truly opened up her heart and let me in. She's had a constant need of control, feels more like a trust issue, or giving up control. I've tried to lead, but my opinions and feelings have never been taken seriously by her or myself. Oh my goodness, by you or her. That's your impression, huh? It's got to be a really tough spot. Cynthia, what's your initial thoughts on this? She feels like she constantly needs control. She's admitted that she's never truly opened up and let me in, and that my feelings and opinions have never been taken seriously by her or by myself.
I'm curious. Thank you, Kent, for sharing that and for holding space for someone who, you know, can't give up control. I'm curious what you mean about your feelings and opinions that you've never felt about them seriously for yourself. What does that mean?
So I'll jump in and I'll make a guess while Kent's maybe typing, which is the nice guy syndrome, right, guys? As we put our own wants and our needs to the side and just consider them not important or consider them much farther down on the priorities list. And now we've come forward 13 years and I've you know, brushed my needs aside, brushed my feelings and opinions aside for 13 years. And I'm looking back and realizing I maybe even never took myself as seriously or my wants as seriously as I should have. So that's what I would say. I haven't seen Kent punch in another response yet. But what would you say after that, Cynthia?
So there's a couple things going on here in the space of the relationship. If a man is unclear about his own thoughts and feelings and the vision that he's holding for the relationship, it's almost like he has like half a bathtub built, and he's wanting the woman in his life to come like with her bucket of water, her bucket of femininity, and to pour it into the bathtub. But she's walking along and she's unsure if like the bathtub is gonna hold the water. So she starts to hold it herself. And again, it's almost like as the years go by, as she keeps holding more and more buckets, it's kind of like I'm the one who has to hold the water because he seems uncertain of himself. So that's one piece of it.
Let's pause right there for a second. That was huge. I don't know if you guys saw my eyebrows go up when you said it's like a half of a tub that's been filled and so, or built, half a tub that's been built. And so she's uncertain whether you can hold the water of her femininity, and she starts to hold it herself. Yeah. And so Kent just typed, yes, Jeff, exactly. I've convinced myself that my opinions aren't as important as others. Well, I'll say, Kent, that at least you're recognizing this now, you know. I'll be, of course, vulnerable, and I've talked extensively with Cynthia about this, and that she and I met, we're going on 4 years together, and she and I met about 8 months after I separated and divorced from my ex of 13 years. My son was 11 years old when we split up. My son is 16 now. And so I know what you mean, that after 13 years, you're finally realizing these things, and it's incredibly bittersweet. And that's a really nice way to put it, right? I mean, I felt like I was in free fall when I was learning these things. And Steve Horseman is who I found here in Fort Collins, Colorado, who put together a little men's group. And when I say little, there was only like 5 guys there for the first so many number of months, and we had to switch locations, and it's grown and grown and grown. And I mean, I could tell the story of now I help him lead that group, and sometimes we have 20 or 30 guys there 5+ years later. But I know what that's like to start to finally realize or come to this work now after 10, 20, 25 years, as many of the clients that I work with and Cynthia work with tell us. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to Andrew with his hand up, and then I'm going to circle back to Paul. Paul, I know Paul. I don't think that's your real name, Paul. I know it's not your real name, but I'm going to call on Paul. Paul's question in a bit. And so we'll go to Andrew now. Andrew, go for it. You unmuted yourself. Nice.
Okay, so first of all, thanks ever so much for doing this conference. And I also noticed Steve Horseman is listening as well. And I'd really like to just personally thank him, because he started me off when I discovered his videos on the journey that I've been on. Mine started September 2018. And I've gone through a divorce with my wife. I've done a lot of work on myself to try to make myself a better person. I've done loads of research, studying up, a lot. And I've got 2 kids. I'm now fully divorced. I'm in a really good place. I'm in a new relationship, which is great. And the fundamentals, one of the big fundamentals of my relationship, my new one, is the trust. I mean, it's a nut for me. It has to be. And one of the big reasons that was is that I learned the hard way through being deceitful in my previous relationship, and she was as well. And in fact, Steve Forsman put me onto, in one of his videos, he mentioned Brené Brown, The Power of Vulnerability, which is an amazing book for me, and it really, really like clicked with me big time. So my question is this on the trust issue, and it's not to do with my present partnership, because I'm really good with her. It's to do with my wife. There's a lack of trust there. I'm not in that place anymore at all, but we've got 2 kids together, and I need, for the sake of my kids, to have security with them, which I know they have with me. But it's like there's a lag factor with my wife. I know she doesn't trust me anymore, and even though I believe I'm a lot more clear on the way I state things, I don't have that feeling in the way I get texts from her. I still get it's like it's like I get a reaction on how I message her when I'm in my place. But the reaction, it feels like she's replying to me like I'm the old guy. And so my question is, have you any ideas on how I can try to regain the trust that was damaged, and hugely damaged even more during the divorce process, with her? Because it's quite difficult. But of course, I've got a lot of love. I've worked on self-compassion for me. I used to be a massive self-criticizer of myself. And I want to end this good. I've never ever lost my temper with her during the whole process. I've kept calm. I stay calm now, and I will continue to be that way. And I find it a little bit hard though on how I can develop the trust with her, if it's possible.
Sure. So I really appreciate you sharing that, and that you've done so much work, and that you have like empathy for yourself, and that's amazing, because number one, you're modeling that to everyone around you, that it's okay, we are human, things happen, and we move on and we grow, and that must just be so difficult to constantly feel that energy of distrust in you. And I would imagine it kind of hits like a masculine core in you, like, I am an honorable man, I am here to protect you and my kids. And
if I can just say, the question occurred to me clearly when you said earlier that the lack of trust is painful, and that I just thought to myself, yeah, that's what's getting me about it, because I feel pain when I realize that she's not trusting me, because I know I am a trustworthy person now. So that's why I thought, how do I work on this? With an X.
Yeah, that's and I know Jeff has a very similar situation working with an ex, so I would love to offer from the woman's point of view, and then toss the ball to Jeff. There is, so let's say your ex has pain too, and that's why she's acting in distrust. Pain it's a tough, amazingly deep, hard thing, and it's also a kind of a magical thing, because once we're truly understood in our pain, it has the ability to dissipate, almost like if you hurt your back and that pain is with you day after day after day, and then you heal, you can remember there was pain, but it's like you can't remember exactly what it was like. So I just want to offer that as hope, that is possible. It won't always be this way. But one way to work with a woman's like pain and distrust, is to be in gratitude. So it doesn't have to be every time, but just sending like, hey, if you're communicating about your kids, hey, I really appreciate that you do this. And then state what you need to do about your kids. Another thing to really build trust is to really frame your thoughts, to share with her, this is really important to me because, or even to share your emotional experiences of, I'm asking you this because I'm feeling a little nervous about such and so. And I know that's kind of a tenuous line between being the masculine, like holding the torch, and being the lighthouse. But women learn to trust each other by knowing, oh, you have emotions too. Oh, I'm not alone in my emotional state. So in your masculine frame, just letting her know, I'm asking you this, I'm telling you this because of this is going through my mind, could go a really, really long way.
That's interesting you should say about the sharing. That's one of the issues that probably has made it worse, is that, I mean, I developed in me that I came to the point where I only shared my feelings and emotions with, you know, people that I actually wanted to, people that became really close to me, that I felt connection with. Otherwise, I cut down a lot of my sharing, and I cut it off with Ruth because of the hurt there, and I just didn't feel I wanted to connect up with her. So, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's
so maybe,
do.
and there's like, yeah, and we don't want to like just expose ourselves for someone who's going to throw darts, but I think just that frame of, hey, this is important to me because I'm thinking about this for our kids.
Okay, I'm writing notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I'll jump in with a quote from the book we were chatting about before we started today, which was The Masculine in Relationship. I'll mention from that, Andrew. I've got a quote I put into my notes here in my phone.
That arrived for me today.
What's that?
That book arrived today.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So here's a spot from that. It says, by far the most loving thing you can do for a partner or friend. So a co-parent, I like to think of as, she's a teammate of some kind. And I've actually worked that out with other men. What would you call her? She's not really a friend. I mean, co-parent, yes, but you want to be her teammate. That's your goal, right? So by far the most loving thing you can do for a partner or friend or teammate is to speak your truth about your needs and desires. In the moment of choice, when you're presented with an opportunity to either ignore or share your truth, remember this: force yourself to live from that truth and have faith that the results will eventually be positive, even if there might be resistance or hurt feelings in the short term. And so nowhere does he say be an asshole, you know, nowhere does he say call her a bitch first, right? It just says to share your true feelings. And so I'll talk about that specifically. I can absolutely. So I've been co-parenting for, like I said, 5 years. The first year was kind of a shit show. I mean, pretty much a shit show, to the point where, you know, I'm trying to, my son has had difficulty in school for a very, very long time. And so school has been touchy. And we were talking about school and talking about discipline and, hey, does he have the Xbox all night long at either of our houses? When does he turn in the technology? And she said to me in the first year, my ex did, I'm not interested in co-parenting with you, and I'm going to do whatever I want. All right. Okay. So he's going to have Xbox all night long, and she, you know, like, all right. So that was the first year, basically. And since then, there's definitely trust issues. I think in almost any relationship that ends in a rough way, which is most of them, there's going to be some kind of underlying issues like this. And so I want to ask you a clarifying question, Andrew. What do you know to be true? It seems like you're almost assuming and feeling into these text messages, which, by the way, are very hard to feel into a text message. What do you actually know to be true? What are the facts around the situation that you're thinking of?
I think of a few things then. I think of, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to answer your question directly, but what I think is true is that quite often when we get a text message and we're not clear on what it means, because we love stories, if we don't complete the story, we make it up. And so my mind quite often probably completes the story based on what I think she might be thinking, and it's got nothing to do with actually what she's thinking. So that could be something there that I need to possibly work on. What was the other question, the other part?
Yeah, so you basically jumped forward and I asked you, what do you know to be true? And so you already assimilated the answer and then gave me the next answer to the next question, which is, I'm probably making a lot of that up, is what you just said. So, okay, well, now what do I do, Jeff, right? Well, what do I do after that? This is what Cynthia was alluding to as well. It's absolutely honoring of her to, one thing I would do, and so props are good, Props are good because that way it's not just you don't like have to barrel stare into the other person's eyes, right? And it also gives them something to look at as well, and not just barreling into your eyes. So when you have a text message, I would like hold up my phone like this and then say, hey, there's just something within the text. This is my son in 4th grade, I think. There's something within the text that I was a little bit confused by. And so could you share more about that with me? So you're not saying, it looks like you don't trust me. You know, you're not making that assumption and labeling it like that for her. You want her to label it. There's another book I'm reading right now. It's Never Split the Difference by Chris Ross. He's an FBI hostage negotiator. And there's a whole section in there about labeling. So you want her to label what's going on. You don't want to label it with an assumption prior to talking with her, right? So even if even if I do this, you're looking at the phone. And so she knows what she texted you, right? Like this is just silly, but it's another way to bring a third entity, if you will, something that's not just the two of your eyeballs into the discussion. So yeah, right here, you see, this is silly that I'm doing, but I'm also making sure that I'm reading exactly what she says. So I'm honoring exactly what she said, and I'm not just paraphrasing, because how many times have we been around our ex, which we already have high tension, and she paraphrases and you're like, that's not what I said. And it's off to the races, right? Off to the races we go. So that's what I would say. Use the phone, make sure, you're saying exactly what she said. I'm a little confused by this, or I'm unsure maybe if you wanted something more here, and I'm happy to talk about that. What else would you like me to know about that?
I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Awesome. Cynthia, anything you wanted to add about the phone and such like that?
No, I think that was wonderful, and you walk your talk, because I know I know I hear what you do, so it works.
Oh, thank you so much. Awesome. All right, let's jump back to, this is a great segue for Paul, who put a question in a while back. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it. That was excellent. Thank you first. So Paul asks, if you do not trust your wife after a betrayal and want to rebuild that trust, I believe that's what you mean, how does my lack of trust likely affect my wife? Okay, so there's a betrayal. You want to rebuild trust, but it's a bit of a catch-22, it seems like, because you don't trust her right now. So how does that affect my wife, and how can I break that catch-22? Paul, do you want to jump in?
Hello.
Hey, go for it, bud.
Oh no, I just was curious. I mean, when I think Cynthia really hit a nerve when she talked about the pain of the trust or lack of trust, and because it flared up a bunch of questions. So I guess, yeah, my question is how does that feel when you're the one who isn't trusted, especially from the feminine perspective? And I think it's so valuable that you have Cynthia on here, because she gives such an interesting counterbalance to all of us men. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul. So your question is not so much how can I trust her again, but how does my mistrust affect the feminine energy? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So I had a really humbling experience when in Colorado, and this is relating to facial expressions. I had a really humbling experience when we were all asked and encouraged to wear face masks. And I found myself like avoiding, I'm like, I need to go to the post office and the grocery store, but I would think of it and I would get really overwhelmed. And I was like, what is going on? I just need to go to the post office and the grocery store. And finally I was like, okay, I need to go. And I remember like driving to the parking lot, and then it was this strange, almost like panic that came over me. And there was no conscious thought behind, oh, I won't be safe. It was a pure biological reaction. And I was asking myself, like, I don't consider myself a highly dramatic person. Like, what's going on? And I realized that not feeling like I was going to be able to communicate with people, like letting them know I was on the same page by smiling at them, or knowing what other people were thinking because they would be covered, was very startling to me. And, you know, then I learned that, you know, when you go in and even if you're covered here, you can tell people are smiling with their eyes and it's fine. But it taught me how much as a woman, we look to facial expressions to cue us about what's going on in the other person and where we are in relationship with them. So if you are feeling distrust and it is in your body and it's in your face, even if you're kind of trying to hide it or calm it a little bit, it's most likely that even unconsciously she's picking up on that, and that's something that you might even want to have a conversation with her about, like, hey, I'm working through this, and I'm wondering what you notice in me that might what are you noticing about my trust level in you? Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, it's you know, setting up a feedback loop and asking for it. And because if you're, you know, in my case, I'm actively trying to maintain relationship, and so yeah, you've got to set up those feedback loops. So like you said earlier, the kitchen sink doesn't fill up. You can get all those things out, get them addressed, and move forward. So thank you for that perspective. Appreciate it. Good luck with your show. I think you guys are going to do wonderful.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Awesome. Very cool. So a bunch of men said, great analogy with the bathtub. That's what Andrew said that. And I believe Roger said that as well. Brent said that. And then, yeah, Roger says, part of what got me into my present semi-fiasco is that early on, I was too afraid to ask for what I want. After we got back to the basics, we can work on that part. Yeah. After we get back to the basics, we can work on that part. Not yet back to the basics, it seems like, huh? Maybe you can ask us a question about that in a little bit here. Yeah, Brett said, I felt too passive. The spark was there, and I had a vision for the relationship, but lost it along the way. Big mistake. Yeah. Sexually frustrated and bored, another says. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, here's a question from Roger. I know from other readings that the man pretty much has to make the move. How do you know when your wife trusts you enough to be ready? Oh, I want to start with this one. So make the move. You got one move, Roger, right? You're waiting on your one move. Like, I'm going to go golfing, and I'm going to take one club, all right? Now, when do I swing at the ball with my one club? Roger, you want to come on? You still there? Can you? I don't know if you can talk or not. So you're getting my point. Maybe you can't.
Yeah. No, I can definitely talk. You can see I'm in the armory today.
Oh my goodness! Look at you.
Yeah. The armory is vacant. It is all mine. Yeah. No, I think that with me, I mean, it's like, okay, long story short, and I know I've talked to Cynthia and I'm talking to you tomorrow, but you know, with my wife, I mean, there's a big trust issue, and you know, there are issues between us, but a lot of the trust issue I think I brought on by myself and my damn ridiculous temper, you know, and now it's an issue of, part of the reason I was so much looking forward to this call is because it's right on point in that, you know, she says, well, she has a hard time trusting me and trusting that I won't blow up again, and you know, for that reason, our sex life has went from suck to blow, meaning it's non-existent at this point. But how do I know when she's ready to be? how do I know when she's ready to be receptive to that? I mean, you know, if I wait for her to initiate, it'll be like, you know, she's, especially her. I think women in general, but especially her, she's just not going to initiate it. But how do I know when she's ready? You know, I mean, it's not even so much fear of rejection anymore. It's that I don't want a setback, or I don't want her to feel like I'm focused on sex and not working on my own issues, because I am focused on that. But by the same token, it's like, how do I know? You know, how do I know when the time is right?
Yes, I'm going to jump in first, and I'd love for Cynthia to jump in. So my point about I'm going to go golfing with one club, obviously you don't want to do that, right? You want to take your whole bag of clubs. And the point there is, this is what I call the stairs of intimacy. So Roger, where would you say that you are? One is we hold hands once in a while, but she's not even really sure about that. We're just talking physical intimacy.
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, one thing that makes me feel good is that looking, I mean, not to make anybody else feel down, because, you know, we're all in different stages. I mean, we're not nearly as far gone as like some relationships, right? I mean, we still talk, and most of the time when she's not receptive to things like, you know, touch and intimacy, it's not because she's mad, it's because she's a little bit ADD and she's always, you know, focused on something else, but it isn't really, one thing I'm learning is it's not intended to be personal. So, you know, I can put my arm around her, I can give her a hug and a kiss. I mean, it might not be a you know, not to be vulgar, but it might not be a tongue kiss, okay? But, you know, we definitely, you know, I can hug her, I can, you know, do whatever. But as far as anything more than that or anything, she let me touch her boob this morning, but that's another story. You know, so it's not like completely shut down by any stretch, but by the same token, it's like, you know, we're definitely stuck in PG land. Like we haven't even moved to PG-13 yet.
Okay, yeah. So I love where your brain's going here, Roger. I'm sure tons of guys, and I was 5-6 years ago thinking in the same spot in a lot of instances. So
yeah.
We got a few different things going on. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead and mute the two of you, and I'll have you jump back in here in 1 minute. So the stairs of intimacy, you hug and kiss, and oh, she let me touch her boob this morning. So I don't know, let's give that a 3. And the point is, Roger, you're a funny dude. I love it. And so let's give that a 3. And I'm assuming that your make the move means a 10. I'm going to assume that. I don't think I'm going too far out on a limb here. So if I'm walking up some stairs and I'm trying to jump from step 3 to step 10, what's most likely going to happen? I'm going to smash my damn face on the stairs and tumble down, right? So as far as skills go, I don't want you to think, number one, that this is making a move like, okay, when do I time it? When do I pounce on my prey? That's definitely not the way we want to look at things. And also, we want to dance up the stairs of intimacy. So if you're at a 3 now, maybe it's a 3-4, 3-4-5-4, right? 3-4-5-4. And then you're not trying to go to a 10 right now. And maybe then if she's happy for you to touch your boob instead of just letting you touch her boob, which that's another thing I want to bring up real quick in a second. And then maybe you're at a 5. Maybe it's like, oh, maybe we're up to a 5 now. And so it's a 5-6-7-6, 5-6-7-6 dance. And that is much less risky. There's less chance of rejection. She won't feel like you're just trying to, you know, pounce her when it's not appropriate. And especially for a woman who has, sounds like she's in her, I'll say her masculine quite a bit, needing to achieve in the world or parenting or doing this thing over here. The pragmatic list of shit to do around the house is not very sexy. And so I can see what you mean about it would be difficult if she's always thinking about that list. So the one other thing before I bounce it back to Cynthia is that we have to understand, gentlemen, that she's not on a pedestal, right, Roger? So I know you're a funny guy, and I know you're like half joking that she let you touch her boob this morning, but what about the gift of you touching her? So you're both lucky to be in that scenario there where you can touch and enjoy the touch of her, and she can feel your touch and receive your touch. It's not that she let you. I mean, maybe this morning that's really what happened. She's like, I mean, that's like, okay, I'll let you. That's not very sexy. That's what that sounds like. But if it's
she was surprisingly receptive. So yeah, and just to clarify, part of what I mean, you know, about the move isn't like, you know, it isn't so much in the immediate sense. It's more like, how do I know she's ready for me to say initiate sex? You know what I mean? It's like, because we're kind of in that weird region where we're not like some people where she's like, oh my God, get away. It's more that she's really, really pissed off and with ample justification. And so we're in a definite dry spell. Now, before that, it wasn't great. You know, it's been a reverse staircase. It's been a staircase downward. You know what I mean? But it's like, you know, it's very hard. You know, if I come out and ask her, you know, she'd probably be like, oh no, I don't trust you yet. But, you know, you wonder how literally to take that. You know what I mean? Because there is some warmth there. It's just, I'm never sure where exactly she's at. And she's also, no offense, Cynthia, you know, bygones, but women tend to be a little bit like, I think the word is arbitrary, capricious, and sometimes threatening, in the sense that I never know what the fuck she's thinking, you know? So it's a little bit like, it's like playing Russian roulette with a semi-automatic, you know? It's just very dangerous.
Yeah, I don't take any offense to that. I think that's spot on.
Yeah.
Cynthia, go for it. Yeah, Russian roulette with a semi-auto, man. I'm gonna have to start writing these down, guys. This is awesome. Yes. So Cynthia, go for it. How can Roger know or have more of a clue of when she either is interested or there's the possibility of increased intimacy in the moment? Physical intimacy. Because Roger, you did say emotional and verbal as well, right? With physical intimacy.
Women are a little bit arbitrary, and this one exceptionally so. You know what I mean? Like she's volatile. She's like, just a little volatile.
Your observation about how women do that actually relates to another post I saw in chat when I think it was Patrick asking about, do women have no honor? And I would love to address that maybe a little bit later. Because I think women are honorable in terms of they're always honorable to their emotional state. Nothing takes them off course of that. So first question, how do you know that she is, ready for that kind of intimacy? And just on the last conversation, I was talking about facial expressions, but you're looking for someone who is making eye contact with you. Their body language is open. There's, some verbal sounds of sighs or appreciation. And I'll just say that as a blanket, but then it's kind of wondering back to in those first few dates with your wife, what signals did she give you that she was open and attractive and receptive? And then in terms of like initiating, I think what Jeff said in terms of the intimacy stairs, I love, because there's a bit of playing with time and space there, and not trying to jump right into the deep end right away. There's like kind of dipping the toe in. And I don't mean that to be passive, but if you have someone who's like really closed off from you and really in your head, there's small things like verbally saying, hey, I'm really looking forward to seeing you later today. I'm really looking forward to sitting down with you today. Because you're expressing an emotional desire that feels so good to the feminine energy, and there's no like, and then we're gonna have sex. And then there's kind of like that old cultural, we joke about, what is it? Women that turn on like a pot slowly turning to a boil, and men can turn on like, I don't remember the other side of the analogy, but it's like that. And right now you're just turning on the heat, and that's like small little things like touching her ear, holding her hand for a moment. I find when Jeff kind of takes my hand and just holds it for a few seconds, it takes me out of the like I have to do and makes me feel so warm and soft inside. And all this, I mean, Roger, you're very aware, and you see and you perceive so much. So all of these are just like suggestions, but it's kind of like what you know to be true in you and her.
Yeah, and I want to add about the touching the body. We spoke about how the mind is generally in the past or the future. The mind is often not here and now. That's why we need to do a presence exercise, right? Where our body is always in the present moment. We may not be aware of it right now. We may not be paying attention to it right now, but our body is always in the present moment. And so touching her hand or her ear, like Cynthia said, or she's previously said her hair, for instance, and you're doing it in a short amount of time. It's a small thing you're doing, and you're doing it intentionally. And when you're doing it, you're visualizing the care and love that you have for her. Maybe you're visualizing when the two of you first got together and the feelings that you had then. Or you're visualizing, the cute lacy panties that maybe she has on in the 3 seconds that you touch her hair, right? So that your mind and your emotions are congruent with what you're trying to convey to her, Because if they're not, if you're just faking it till you make it and you're thinking, God, why is she such a bitch? I wish she would touch my penis. And you're trying to stroke her hair, she's going to feel like that's super creepy, like you're trying too hard. She's going to hate it. Okay, so bring your mind into the present as well of what you're doing and the energy of what you want to be doing by visualizing the energy you want to have. So you can bring into your mind the emotions and the energy of what you want to be expressing to her. Generally, usually the easiest way is to think about when you first met. Maybe you even need to look at a picture, an old picture of the two of you from when you first met, to even maybe bring that fresh back into your mind. There's some men that we work with one-on-one that Cynthia and I coach that haven't had a great relationship for 20 years, 25 years. And you may not actually remember that feeling. So put that into your mind and try to bring her into the present moment with your body. So Brett asks, been separated for over a year. Trust was broken by me by holding back and not taking the lead. Made some promises and tried to follow through, but by that time, the trust was gone. We communicate every few days and we're friendly. Is there any way that these conversations can reestablish trust between us and perhaps move forward into a better relationship or marriage? ? She knows I want to work on things. Things are PG as well, PG-2 right now, because we both know the trust is severed. Definitely a wall present. And then he laughs. So that's probably super uncomfortable that a wall is present there. And that's becoming really apparent to you. What I read into the LOL at the end there is, wow, yeah, there is quite the wall there. So Cynthia, what do you think?
Let's pretend none of us are perfect. Let's pretend that we have all goofed up in our masculinity and goofed up in our femininity 5 years ago, 5 minutes ago. It happens. Like, this is our part of our work, our journey on taking what's occurred in the past and learning from it. I think there is, again, if we're talking about, women and trust and how women trust each other, they do that through, again, like facial expressions. They empathize with each other's feelings. They let each other know that they're not alone in having emotional experiences. Like, oh yeah, I had such a bad day at work. Oh yeah, me too. And then they don't really need more than that, because it's we're in this together. We're in the same tribe. I'm not alone. So I'm curious if there's been any conversations, Brett, with sitting down with her and just being honest with, hey, I feel like I don't feel good about this. I feel like I didn't build trust well, and I'd like to hear like your how that made you feel, and then this is what I'd like to do in my own life as I continue forward as a man, and I'd like to share that with you. I didn't know if those kind of conversations have happened at all.
Yeah, those conversations have happened. But basically the whole tone is that, well, it's too late, can't go back, damage is done. She's pretty dead set on things ending when the topic is brought up, and then when it's not brought up and it's just us and we're having a good time or whatever and talking, we both get on really, really, really well, like two very connected people that could be together, but they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So it has come up. It's just a case of, with this wall, basically it's a tone of too little, too late.
Okay. Which sounds like she's kind of hanging on to resentment, which is a really good way to numb out to pain. And it gives us kind of we almost get a little bit addicted to it, because it helps us feel empowered in places that we wouldn't normally feel powerful. Have you invited her to say, like, just what, tell me about the pain or frustration of that? I would love to hear what that experience was like for you. Has that ever been on the table?
Yes, it was a couple of times, and she's usually very forward about it, and I basically just let her speak because, well, this is her forum. This is her time to tell me whatever's on her mind. And I know that it's beneficial to just be that listening ear and to not give my own 2 cents, but just to accept where she's at and understand where she is.
Well, thank you for doing that. When she shares, do you kind of just hold the space, or do you respond at all with anything like, oh my gosh, that sounds so painful for you?
Yes, I respond. I let her know she's heard and I understand.
Okay. So if the one other thing I can drop in the bucket, and you may say that that doesn't work, is just that when we can really empathize with someone in our face and our body and from our heart, of not just I hear and understand, but oh my God, I feel how painful that is. That's just one other thought. But beside that, so when you as a man are going, okay, I know she's in pain and I know this is what she said, and I'm going to gather my power. I'm going to gather who I am and my purpose in this life, and I'm going to be in appreciation for who I am and where I'm headed. That has an amazing effect on people around us who might be in resentment, because we're no longer giving them the energy that they can resent and be emboldened by. It's like, you're here, you're wonderful, you're great, but I'm living my life. And I'd be curious to see if that was your primary focus over time, like if you would see some small shifts in her. What are your thoughts about that?
Small shifts in her, I can definitely see that happening. And like you mentioned about, showing her what you said, that's been basically my MO with that, is just saying, look, I understand that what we had is not here anymore. But at the time, I didn't really listen to her as much as I could have. And now this is part of how I'm changing as a person, among other things that I'm doing.
Well, I just want to say, like, it takes such heroism to be a person who's willing to sit and listen to another person's pain and frustration with us. And there's so many people, men, women, who would just run in the other direction or try to make the other person wrong. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your presence in that. Thank you for being that person, and thank you and then also continuing with what you know is important to you.
Yep, that's been basically it's part of my growth, is just making sure I'm in a position where I'm improving. I know where I came from. Now I'm moving forward. I hope she's part of that, but if for some reason that doesn't pan out, I'll be much better off for that relationship, either way.
Yeah. And it's okay, even in conversations where she's like, oh, no, sorry, whatever. You can be very strong in yourself and be like, I totally hear and understand. I do have a vision that we, will be doing this together, and you may not join me in that vision, but here's the vision I'm holding. And keeping that strong for as long as you feel is important, or as long until you feel like you want to take that relationship vision to someone else who would really appreciate being part of it.
Yeah. I offered her a couple of rolls of toilet paper a few weeks back. She said no, but I'm perfectly fine with that. So in any case, been what I've been doing. Just been very much accepting and enjoying our positive conversations, because things could be completely other directions. So I'm very grateful for what we have.
That's amazing. I appreciate your gratitude. Thank you. And I love that in this world, a romantic gesture is toilet paper. Oh,
Well, these are crazy times. So, hey, crazier things have happened.
Yes, and it brings a little bit of humor to what we're doing.
Hey, thank you both so much.
Thank you, Brett.
Yeah, Brett, I didn't want to interrupt the flow with Cynthia, so I definitely want to add something here to this. First of all, I'm assuming toilet paper is actually toilet paper and not a euphemism for something else. Offering her a couple of something else would be different. But.
Yeah, it was strictly toilet paper.
Got it. Well, a few things. You honor the friendship, let's say, or the partnership, teammateship that you have with her, and that's fantastic. That's an amazing start. I can feel that there's some, of course, sadness there still as well, right? But let me ask you, pragmatically, it sounds like you're having fun with her, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Are you guys intimate at all, physical at all?
No, we both live in separate places, and now with this pandemic, it's that comes with its own barriers to that. So the answer is no.
Sure. But how about over the last year? You said separated over a year.
Yeah, there's been no intimacy.
Okay.
There's been holding hands and there's been flirting, and she's there's been some tension between us that way, but there's been no actual action though with that.
Okay, well, that's definitely emotional intimacy, and holding hands is physical intimacy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
so I know that's not what you want, but.
Well, no, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that's step one on the stairs, right? It's like, here's the thing, guys. If we're not getting 10 out of 10, you can't sit down on the bottom step and like act like a butthurt little boy and, you know, whine about it. And I'm exaggerating, Brett, for effect here. I do that a lot. I'm exaggerating. But, you know, you said there's no intimacy except we hold hands and we flirt. So we have held hands and flirted once in a while, right? So if that means there's no penis and vagina, like I get that, but there's other forms of intimacy. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, right?
Right.
So definitely when you're with her. Now I want to answer your question. And your question is, can these conversations reestablish trust? The short answer is no. Okay? What they can do is continue the relationship that you do have, the partnership, the teamwork, but texts and just conversations, what you say with your mouth, the words that come out of your mouth, are not going to reestablish trust. You know, you can't, the way to say this is you can't talk your way out of something that you behaved your way into.
Right. And I mean, that's right now, it's all I got. And I mean, at this point, if the answer is no, that's fine. I'm just going to reestablish what I got and then just be grateful for that.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is if you think that texting, if you have a preconceived notion that I'm going to have these conversations because I'm trying to blank, then you have a covert contract going in. You have this expectation going in. And ahead of time, you're going to basically, at some point, you're going to end up being disappointed. And that's going to blow up in both of your faces, in your face. And she feels there's something else going on there because why is this guy, it's like you're pushing, but not. She feels an energetic push or an energetic neediness from you, and that's going to turn her off. So the conversations can erode trust if you have a covert contract and are expecting them to come out of some kind of particular outcome. No. So the way they can grow trust is not through the conversations themselves, but it's in your lack of expectation of outcome. It's in your being present in the moment and having fun with her in the moment and honoring where she is right now. Like Cynthia said, a woman is as honorable as her current emotions. Is that what you said, Cynthia? Was that the quote? Yeah.
She will never defer from that.
She'll never defer from the honor of her current emotions. Oh my goodness. That's the first I've actually heard that, guys. So that's good. But I do want to add, so let's assume that the world goes back to normal next month, which knock on wood. Brett, would you have chances to then be physically in the same, you know, vicinity as her, room, sports teams or something, you know, kids sports or something?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of opportunities there. She still has the mail coming to my house, so she has to come by every so often to get that.
Why does she have the mail coming to your house?
I don't know. I figure she might have changed her address yet. I don't know, but I'm still getting quite a bit of mail coming to my place, and it's pretty much been that since the separation started and she moved out. You know, she's never really changed it.
Do you guys have kids?
No kids.
Okay, so if she wanted nothing to do with you, she'd have nothing to do with you. She would have changed. She would have forwarded her mail already. I have a client out of one of the Carolinas. It's been about a year separated. No contact, Brett. This client I have, he's tried different things. He's grown in his own self. He's become an amazing man. He won't mind me saying this. I won't tell any more that I shouldn't, but his name is Jay. He said he's lost over 30 pounds in the last year, doubled his income because he's in real estate and sales, and tripled his net worth in real estate. And guess what? That hasn't brought her any closer to him. Those are things that he did for himself. He did them for himself because he wanted to, advance his life and not, and hopefully that is interesting to her, right? But
yeah,
no, it wasn't. So we can change our body, we can change our finances, but we can't force her to walk across the bridge toward us. All we can do is be unattached to outcome and be that fucking awesome man on the phone, on FaceTime right now. You could write her a letter. There's different things that you could do, but right now, go with what you've got. It sounds like it's going really well until this kind of pandemic ends and you can be back in space with her. And then that's another chapter of life, right? There's another chapter of enjoyment, and basically that'd be another phone call of, well, what to do after that kind of thing, Brett. But that's my answer.
Yeah, and I want to address too that with our conversations, I don't have an agenda with anything. I just want to make sure, that she's okay. She's not sick, because she works in the medical field. So of course, I'm concerned about her health and stuff with this crazy virus. And I just want to make sure she's okay. I've already kind of thought about my life without her and what I want for myself, just myself. And I have a vision for myself and what I want out of life. So with my work with this and other men's groups and whatnot, I've detached myself from an outcome. I mean, I still love to work things out, but if it doesn't pan out, I know I'll be okay and better than ever in the end of it.
Beautiful.
So I don't have an outcome attached to anything. I just want to, just curious if there was anything, you had any insight as to, because things are going so well, if you had any suggestions on how to move things forward. But I appreciate everything you both have said.
I do have a thought about what would move things forward, and that is it's easy for us to, especially as women, to be like, oh no, I don't want to be with you, I don't trust you. If the person is like, hey, I really I'm here in case you want to reconsider. It's really easy to pull back from that. You setting a very kind boundary of saying, hey, we aren't living together. I really need you to have your mail changed. That's kind of putting your stake in the sand, Brett. And that's in a very kind, gentle way. That is a very attractive thing for a man to do. And that's also cueing her that, hey, if she doesn't start kind of stepping toward this more, you will move on in your life. And I think that would be, unless Jeff says otherwise, I think that could be a really important next step that might have some really positive results.
That's a phenomenal idea. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, because if things are really, going to go that way and stuff, and she's still getting her mail here, it doesn't really make much sense in my mind. So I'll definitely give that some thought. Thank you.
Yeah, as far as timing, I'll just add the timing of the mail thing. Don't do it now. Okay. Keep up what you got going on. You're going to have fun right now with her like you are. Don't try to advance anything. You're in a pretty good spot, to be honest. Okay. She doesn't, she's not running away from you. You're doing great within yourself. You're doing this work. You're in men's groups. You're maybe doing coaching or reading a book or something, and you're doing good, right? So there's going to be the next chapter of when the two of you can actually see each other again. Dance within that chapter without asking about the mail. And then when it feels like maybe 2 or 3 months have gone by and sort of another chapter of life has turned, it's the holidays are coming up or something like this, and at that time don't feel like anything's advancing, if you will, that would be great. That would be a great time to ask her to change her address on the mail. That way you don't need to, there's no reason to kind of jump up and down in the canoe right now, you know?
Yeah, I don't want to jump up and down right now or make any
Yeah.
crazy moves.
Yeah. So after you start seeing each other again, just physically, you know, in person, because we can be back together, give it about 2 or 3 months. And then that would be a good time to do that.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Brett. I really appreciate it. Sean, I'm going to unmute you right now. Can you speak? Go for it.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff. Hi, Cynthia. So I'm in the situation. I was on the call last week where my wife and I are separated, and we are at the truest sense of separation. We don't really communicate anything in regards to our relationship. We are co-parenting to have 2 wonderful daughters. And that right now is a struggle for me because, you know, the past Easter, you know, my daughters wanted me to come to the marital home. I'm out of the house. And so, you know, focusing on my daughters, I went for Easter, had Easter dinner with my wife and my daughters. But my struggle is getting the hopes up with my daughters, me being in the marital home at given points in time. And not this coming week, but next week is my wife's birthday. She is working, so it's the 29th. So she's working on her birthday, and then she's going to take Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday. So she'll have the girls from Wednesday to Sunday. My wife told me that my oldest daughter made mention that she would want me to spend the night, one of those nights, at the marital home. I'm not really comfortable with it at all. I'm basically a no on it. But, you know, I know the navigation, and you guys are talking about the adult female relationships. I'm talking right now about a relationship with a 7-year-old daughter who wants me to spend the night, and how I can break that to her with, I don't know. I feel like either way, what I do is going to be a wrong answer in a sense. One, I'll beat myself up for saying no. That could be a possibility. And then the other part is I do go, and I regret going because it's going to put hope in both my daughters. So I'm really struggling with that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for asking that question. And I feel the tenderness of that, just you being a dad and wanting to hold your daughters in such good space.
Right.
The toughest thing for a dad and his masculine to do with a daughter is to try to push down emotion or avoid emotion.
Right.
Or to say you shouldn't have that emotion, or try to fix an emotion. The greatest, most incredible thing a dad can do for his daughter, no matter what her age, is allow her and reassure her in whatever emotion she's having. So if you need to say, and you said this was your 7-year-old?
Yeah, it's my 7-year-old, yeah.
Okay, so I'll think in my niece is 8 years old, so trying to kind of think of her mindset. It's saying no, and however you kind of want to say, you know, mom and dad are not together anymore. We still love you, however you would reassure her, and then say, you know, it's okay to feel disappointed about that, and it's okay to have sadness about that, and I'm here for you through all of that. And then there's even like a totem you can give her, whether it's her stuffed animal or a picture or something that's like, hey, honey, when you're there and you're feeling sad about me not being there, you look at this and you remember how much I love you and how excited I am when we get to see each other again.
Okay.
And the gift of that, even in a 7-year-old's mind, if that's still a little tough, think about the long term of such a 17-year-old who feels like it's okay to have emotions and come to you and talk to you about it. And think about the 27-year-old and then the 47-year-old who's raising her own teenagers.
Right, right. Yeah, because she is yet to come to me and ask me. So it hasn't happened yet. My wife let me know that it was in conversation with her. So it hasn't come up. So I haven't brought anything of that up yet. So I don't know if my daughter is going to bring this up next week around my wife's birthday, because I will be taking them over to the Marital home on Wednesday night, and which is my wife's birthday, and we'll probably do, cake and ice cream and thing there. But I just don't think at this point in time it's very healthy for me to spend the night.
Yeah.
I just think it's just mixed messages. I can see where my daughter's coming from, but at the same time, I think it's more of a detriment to do that than as being helpful.
Yes, and your girls and your women in your lives, they pick up on the unsaid energy so much. The biggest gift you can give them, no matter what their age, is to bring it out on the table so it's not this unknown inside of their bodies. And kind of like there was another question in the chat, like gentleman was asking, how do I clean the dirty dishes? It's like, it's your empathy for what girls are going through in your life, the women are going through in their lives is such a huge thing, and it's the biggest gift because it teaches them to have empathy for themselves as well, and that's enormous.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm, at some level looking also for some confirmation that I'm making the right decision on not spending the night. I don't know. I don't know if Jeff, you want to chime in as being a male.
I 1,000% think you should not spend the night over there.
Okay.
Absolutely not. And this is a phenomenal opportunity for you to have this type of emotional conversation with your 7-year-old daughter.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Cynthia and I have been, and this is before we started our own private coaching practices, we were special education teachers in adjacent school systems. And we had 2 to 3 dozen kids on our caseload and worked with families and have for basically been in the field for over a decade. Okay. With many, many kids. And so I understand the 7-year-old and the 7-year-old girl and such. Exactly what Cynthia said. If I'm comfortable, if she is comfortable talking with her daddy about these things and daddy doesn't run away from it, daddy doesn't get angry about it, right? Daddy doesn't shame me for it or try to change the subject. If it's okay, then that's phenomenal growth. That's an amazing opportunity. So I would actually look at this as a positive thing, to be honest, Sean.
Okay.
And one little caveat I want to add is I would ask her maybe what she's feeling before you label it yourself and see if she's able to tell you.
Okay.
Because my licensure is 5 years old and up. Okay. And when they're about 5, it's much more story, and you have to talk about the animals in the story or the other kid in the story. But right about 7 is they're more able to verbalize their own emotions. At least, to be honest, that's more with boys. I work more with boys. So girls are probably much more advanced. If she's able to tell you first, for instance, she might be okay with it.
Yeah.
She might be totally fine with it. In which case it's your own projected sadness that you're worried about. Right.
Right.
But if she is sad about it, then and by the way, that's a presence practice for you. I'm not going to label it first. I'm going to ask her what she's feeling.
Right.
And if she does bring that sadness to you, then Cynthia had a phenomenal response of, it's okay to feel that way. I'm here for you. You know, we both have the same picture. I'll always be thinking of you, Yes, absolutely.
And I think the last part of it, as being, because it was brought to my attention earlier on in this week, and it hasn't been brought up again. Is this something that I should bring up, or wait until my daughter maybe comes and asks me and says, "Hey, Dad, do you want to spend the night, next week," or however she chooses to come to me?
That's a really good question. So I'm a little worried in my mind about triangulation.
Okay.
So when you said, I heard from my ex that my daughter said this, that's triangulation. Okay.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. That's just literally what's happening.
Right.
So I'd ask, what is your communication with your, your ex or your daughter's mom? What is your communication with her like right now?
It's very just logistics and the kids. It really is. Yeah, I mean, we didn't really have a plan in this separation. We didn't have a conversation on how it's going to look like, what it's going to look like a month from when it started. We didn't do it, and I think that's been a major issue. But now she's starting to go through therapy on her own. I'm also in therapy, and I've been in therapy. So we're just co-parenting right now.
Okay. Good. Yeah. So I would not, where triangulation can get more toxic is when you try to act off of the information of the triangulation. Okay.
Okay.
So I wouldn't act forward with that information. By the way, your let's say ex-wife is just letting you know.
Yes.
Okay. Which is great. And you don't need to speak. This is a tenant as a man now. You don't need to speak more about, well, I'm going to do this plan if she asks me, and I don't expect you to do that, Sean, but just to make a point, you're prepared to act. You're prepared to have a relationship with your 7-year-old.
Okay.
And let's say her mom is there in the room. Oh my God, is she going to be impressed with how you handle it?
Okay.
And you don't need to flap your lips to, you don't need to flap your mouth ahead of time. You just do that action of being an awesome man.
Yeah. Okay. Just basically letting her know that I'm still here for her, and this is one moment in time.
You saying what would you say to your daughter?
Yeah.
So I would not try to speak too much. I mean, like I did when I went through a divorce. You take the class that says, you tell your kids, we're going to love you forever.
Mm-hmm.
Mommy and daddy are both going to love you forever, and that's never going to change. So that's your mantra. Like, don't try to add more to it,
Okay.
And I'm assuming you've already said that, so you're going to say it again.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. 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 All right. Do appreciate it. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks.
Awesome question, Sean. Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. So I'm going to share the screen and read this question. Our sex life is non-existent. I don't know what to do to change this, and I'm not sure I can get over my resentments enough to even try at this point. She tells me she can't trust me to be intimate. Oh, and now she says she's in love with her CrossFit trainer. I've done everything to make her happy. I moved to Barcelona so that we could have more adventure. I actually know this gentleman. He moved from San Francisco to Barcelona because basically she wanted to, okay? I moved to Barcelona so that we could have more adventure. I work a good job and make good money. He makes phenomenal money. I make breakfast for the kids in the morning and pick them up from school because she works nights. She says she's not happy, but can't give me any specifics as to why. She says it was just an endless stream of times that I had disrespected her or hurt her emotionally, none of which were raised at the time, and none were intentional on my part. I wasn't even aware of the impact at the time. These things seem trivial to me compared to the years we've been married, the years of marriage we've had, but this has been catastrophic to her, she says, right? Or it appears it's been catastrophic to her. I've offered apologies, but they haven't fixed things. She says she doesn't trust me, but for someone that wishes me out of her life, doesn't love me, doesn't want to live with me, wants freedom, independence, and space, I'm confused by her repeated visits back to the home, and recently when attending a family wedding, she slept in the same bed with me, her rolling over in the morning for a cuddle. I'm so confused. Question, if she can't give me specifics on why she doesn't trust me, how am I supposed to do anything about it?
That's a lot of questions to be answered in once for sure, but to go to, she can't give me any specifics. So we're dealing with the idea that if women are honorable to their emotional world, they're building up emotional experiences. And it doesn't always seem to be logical why they're upset, especially if the masculine is coming to them from a logical place. But that feminine in them is feeling like it isn't being valued or is not as important or not as trustworthy. So let's go back to the sink analogy. We have all these misunderstandings between the masculine and the feminine energy, and the dishes have been stacked up. And you ask that, you know, woman in your life, tell me specifically what happened and how can I fix this? And she's like, I don't know. It was just all bad. It was all, you never protected me, all this, which is very true to her emotional experience. So we want to clean the dishes in the sink, whether or not this is going to be a continuing romantic relationship or whether it's ending. And the way to, you know, dive into this overwhelm of dishes is to offer like the masculine frame. Okay, I really appreciate you sharing with me your emotional experience of this. So there's a gratitude. And then a request. I would really love to hear specifically what has caused you pain, and go backwards. Like ask her, what's the very last thing that caused you frustration or pain, whether it was 5 minutes ago or 5 days ago or 5 years ago. That's going to help her start identifying each dish instead of looking at them all at once. And then it's, as she shares about that dish, it's like, it's remembering for us when we feel untrusted by someone, how that's a really painful place. We feel like our masculinity is not being trusted. That is the same for the feminine, when she feels like her feminine isn't being trusted. So it's that empathy of, gosh, that sounds really painful, or that sounds really frustrating, and just leaving it at that. And then so, okay, so what happened one step before that? What can you share with me about that? And inviting that like layer by layer of dishes. And the ultimate goal is that we are kind of releasing the emotional tension around that, so that, you know, people can be in their best selves and communicate and make really clear choices, free of resentment and free of blocking and trying to push another person away.
I love that description of how to move from plate to plate and how to get underneath down into what's really there. I thought about, you told me this analogy before we got on, the metaphor or the analogy of the dirty plates. And I thought, you know, what if I thought that I cleaned a plate and I put it away on the shelf, and then she goes and takes that plate off the shelf, and shit, sure enough, there's crusty stuff on the plate, and she flips out. She flips out. I can't trust you to clean the plate. I can't trust you to pay attention. I can't trust you to do anything, right? And then it blows up. And so as a man, you aren't the one that determines if the plate is clean. That's really important. You're just there to help her clean off the plate. You're there to be a part of this with her. It's not for you to just sneak in the middle of the night and try to clean all the plates and sneak out. It's not how it works. It has to be done in relationship with her. So I love that description of how to get underneath into the bottom drawer of emotions, as you say, Cynthia, right?
Yeah. And I mean, this kind of relates to what Sean was saying. Like each of us still has that, 7-year-old boy or 7-year-old girl in us who is afraid, missing something, wanting something. And it's that compassion that no matter how we feel that someone has wronged us or devalued us, that looking at them through the eyes of, there's still that 7-year-old inside who just really just needs to share, like, this was really disappointing for me. And that's okay. If you invite a woman to share her disappointments, that's nothing to do with you. Like, everyone's in charge of their own emotions. You're just holding the gift of her to, like, let the steam out of that wound that may have nothing to do with you. But again, it's that when we finally feel like our pain is understood, we have no reason to hold on to it anymore. A lot of our journey is, I want to be understood. I want to be understood. And then once we feel that, it's like, oh, I can let that go.
Right. And so there's a quote I want to add on the end there. You said, just being understood is the vast majority of what will help heal the pain. Yeah. Sometimes that will heal all of the pain in and of itself. Sure, sometimes there's other experiences that have happened, guys. There's other traumas that we've all been through, or she has things from her past or her childhood. Sure. But what can you do? You can be there with her, right? And you can listen. That's what you can do, and empathize without trying to fix. I love that, Cynthia. And I saw you type this in the forums. Sometimes we hold on to pain merely waiting for it to be understood.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, this has been fantastic.
It is an honor and a privilege to be in humanness with other people and walk through the mud, because I know on the other side of mud there is solid ground, and I'm just so excited and honored to be part of moving into something greater and better for everyone who is connected on this call.
Awesome, Cynthia, fantastic. It's been a phenomenal first C-Note show. Thank you, guys. This has been tremendous. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
Bye.
Bye.